When we talk about STIs, our minds usually jump to viruses or bacteria. But there's this whole other category that kind of flies under the radar: parasitic STIs. Now, I know the word parasite sounds a little unsettling, but stick with me, because understanding them is one of the best things you can do for your health.
So just imagine for a second, what if an STI wasn't some invisible virus or bacteria, but an actual, living, tiny organism? It's a bit of a weird thought, right? But for millions of people, that's the reality. Let's break down what that actually means. Okay, before that idea makes you squirm, let's get the single most important fact out on the table right away. Every single infection we are going to talk about today is common, it's treatable, and best of all, it is 100% curable. Gone. For good. So let's start at the very beginning. What in the world is a parasitic STI, and what makes it so different from the others? A parasitic STI is, well, pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's an infection that's caused by a parasite, a tiny organism that needs to live on or inside a person, the host, to survive. It's a totally different ballgame than a viral or bacterial infection. And this is where that difference really matters. See, unlike a virus, we're talking about actual physical organisms. They're usually spread through simple skin-to-skin contact, and here's the crucial part. Once you treat them, they're gone. They don't hang around in your body for life. Generally, when we talk about parasitic STIs, there are three main types that get all the attention. So let's meet this unwanted trio. First up, we've got trichomoniasis, but pretty much everyone just calls it trich. And here's a fun fact for you. This is actually the most common non-viral STI in the entire United States. It's all caused by a teeny tiny single-celled parasite. For the people who actually get symptoms, it often shows up as itching or burning, some pain when you pee, and maybe some changes in discharge. But the thing that makes trich so sneaky is a massive 70% of people with trich have absolutely no symptoms. Zero. They can feel totally fine and have no clue they're infected. And this right here, this is why getting tested regularly is just so important. Now, for the good news, the fix is incredibly simple. It's just a course of oral medication prescribed by a doctor. The only catch? Both partners absolutely have to get treated at the same time. Otherwise, you just end up passing it back and forth. All right, let's move on to our second parasite, pubic lice. You've probably heard them called by their slang name, crabs. These are really tiny insects that set up shop in coarse body hair, usually, in the genital area. The biggest, most obvious symptom here is some seriously intense itching. But unlike with trich, you can often actually see the culprits, either the lice themselves or their tiny eggs, which are called nits, attached to the hair. You might even spot tiny bite marks. Getting rid of pubic lice is a two-pronged attack. First, you use special medicated shampoos to treat your body. Second, and this is just as important, you have to clean your environment. That means washing all your bedding, towels, and clothes in hot water to make sure you get any lice or eggs that are hanging around. And that brings us to our third and final parasite, scabies. This one's caused by tiny mites, they're different from lice, that actually burrow into the top layer of your skin to live and lay their eggs. Your body has an allergic reaction to these little mites, and that's what causes the extreme itching. It's famous for being way worse at night. A classic telltale sign can be these thin, little wavy lines on the skin where the mites have burrowed, along with rashes or bumps. Treatment here is usually a prescription cream that you apply pretty much all over your body. And just like with lice, you gotta wash all the bedding and clothing. But here's the crucial difference. With scabies, anyone who's had close, prolonged skin-to-skin contact with the person also needs to be treated, even if they don't have symptoms yet. Okay, so we know what they are, and we know they're totally treatable. Now let's talk about the most powerful weapon in our arsenal, prevention. I like to think of prevention as having a few layers of defense. Using barrier methods like condoms can definitely reduce the risk. For things like lice and scabies, a huge step is just not sharing personal stuff like towels or bedding. And for everything, getting tested regularly is your ultimate safety net, especially for catching those sneaky, symptom-free infections like trich. Knowing all the medical facts is one thing. But there's a human side to all of this too. So let's talk for a minute about how to deal with the stigma and how to support each other. And really, this quote just says it all. A parasitic infection is a medical condition. That's it. It's not some kind of moral judgment. These little organisms could not care less who you are. anyone can get them. So, if a friend or a partner tells you they have one of these, the absolute best thing you can do is just be supportive. Don't judge them, encourage them to see a doctor. Gently remind them that this is totally curable, and maybe most important of all, respect their privacy. We've covered a ton of ground here, from what these things are to how we treat and prevent them. So let's just wrap all this up with the biggest, most important takeaway. If there is one single thing you walk away with today, let it be this: knowledge removes fear. I get it. The idea of a parasite sounds scary. But knowing that these infections are common, that they're manageable, and that they're completely curable, that's empowering. That's what lets you take charge of your own health. And that leaves us with one final thought. These infections are not a life sentence. They're a temporary, treatable medical issue. So knowing that, how can all of us start to change the conversation around STIs? How do we move away from fear and stigma and towards health, honesty, and support?